Getting our friends together isn't as easy as it used to be. We get it. Life comes at you fast. But trust us, your pals are desperate for a good hang. And when they hear you stock the party with drinks from Drizzly, they'll be banging down your door. Let Drizzly, the go-to app for drink delivery, take care of the supplies. All you need is an excuse. It doesn't even have to be a good one. It's your dog's birthday. The loquats are finally ripe. Whatever. With Drizzly, you can compare prices on a massive selection of beer, wine, and spirits and get them delivered straight to your door, which means you can entice the crew to leave their houses without ever leaving yours. Whatever the occasion, download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com. Today. Must be 21 plus. Not available in all locations. Man, I wish they had Drizzly when I used to play D&D and Riffs. Maybe it's time for me to start again. Thanks, Drizzly.
The podcast playground.
Hooray! Hey, it's my song. Let's sing it. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Come on, it's gonna be fucking awesome. You know the words. It's gonna be fucking awesome. That's it, sing. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Yeah!
Happy birthday to me, everyone. It's Wednesday, and I got another fabulous episode of the Coolest Geek Alive for you. I'm currently, what is it when you're drinking like the tea of self-satisfaction, or, you know, Stewie used to do on the Family Guy. I'll be over here sipping my tea. I'm self-satisfied because 3 weeks ago now, I did an episode called Toys, Toys, Toys. Merchandising tells all about the state of geek culture. And then I got called by my buddy WDW Pro this weekend. He does a YouTube channel called WDW Pro. WDW stands for Walt Disney World Pro. And he has really high-level people on his show. You know, a person like me, to some degree, is only as good as all the information that I keep up on. You know, granted, I'm a creative person for, 20 years professionally in comic books and music and publishing and, just so many different things that I've done. I'm a professional speaker, so I bring some other things to the table as well, but I'd be nothing without so many sources. And I podcast, and I love to podcast, but I don't necessarily always listen to a lot of podcasts. I do sometimes. I listen to a lot of YouTube, sometimes watch, but generally I'm listening to it. And there's some wonderful YouTubers worth checking out. And, even if you don't go and check out any of these people, what I'm going to talk to you about here just real quick, because if you want to be somebody like me who is up on this stuff and, can affirm what I'm saying here, you want really credible sources of information. And, there are two different types of credibility. There are people who are really big fans like myself, and there are people who are professionals in the field. And there are, when you can get a combination of those two people, like myself, actually, you really are cooking with dynamite. People who are fans and have great information. That's why one of my favorite YouTubers is Valiant Renegade, and WDW Pro. Valiant Renegade just broke the other day that, the amount of money that Disney had spent on these Star Wars films was even more, significantly more than they had reported, and they'd hid the numbers. You can be getting this information by somebody who knows how to break down those numbers, because they've worked in the business before, and Valiant has. I don't know what a lot of these, I don't know what everybody's backgrounds are on some of these things, but, they talk about it a lot, but it hasn't absorbed into my brain. So forgive me. But Valiant Renegade is really awesome. And he's great. He's a numbers guy. I love him. I go to Film Threat for my movie reviews for the most part. That's Chris Gore. He used to work on G4. He's awesome. He just did a documentary Attack of the Show, documentary Attack of the Doc. That's pretty awesome. And I've been on that channel a bunch as well, helping with their trial of Star Wars. The next time I go on the show, hopefully it's going to be for the trial of Star Trek, if they will have me back. But I love them over there. They do great, consistent coverage of films and have given me wonderful recommendations for stuff. Midnight's Edge is a great leaker channel, as is Doomcock. Midnight's Edge, this dude Andre, who does a lot of his just voice, he's just got the most wonderful voice. he's like Norwegian or is Scandinavian. I don't know what it is, but his voice is freaking butter, man. Butter to my ears. And then Doomcock, he has a whole shtick that he does. It's great. He's Dictor Van Doomcock. I've actually become friends with Doomcock as well, and hopefully I'll be able to go back on his show again soon. But Doomcock's great. These guys are people who are leaking information. And, I see all the time in the comments people going like, yeah, like these assholes have any information about, it's not that hard to get information, especially when you have a big YouTube platform that people are watching and, people start coming out of the woodwork to give you information. And if you're sharp enough, you can put it together. I mean, like, I'm in the business. I know all sorts of information that, like, I'm not supposed to have. Plenty of that information isn't exactly information that I should be, like, going around sharing with anybody. Because then people go, how do you know that? Who told you that? Because I know inside information. I can't disclose everything that I necessarily know about a thing, because I might embarrass some of the people that gave me the information or how I could have gotten the information. And that's the thing when you're one of these people, you can't disclose who it is. Like, I'm going to talk to you about what me and WDW Pro spoke about in his show, but he told me off the air what like who his source was, and his source is very solid. And he can't disclose who, but he told me who, and I can't tell you who, but I went, ooh, yes, that person would know. So I'm just going to give you a few more again if you want to be like me. Oh, and shout out to Mexican Iron Man, who is an accountant. Who I think Mexican Iron Man shows up on a couple of different YouTube channels, but he's an accountant. He knows how to break a lot of these numbers down, so he's breaking the numbers down and chiming in on some of these conversations because he has an awareness of how much money's really being made, what the profit margins are, what these losses are, all these different things. There's a lot of trickiness within what they say and what's really going on, and you need people who are in the business to really guide you through some of these things. And I know as much as I know because I get so much information from so many different places. And then when it comes to like critiquing films, also The Critical Drinker and The Little Platoon are great. The Critical Drinker's freaking hysterical. His perspectives are great, and he's usually relatively brief. The Little Platoon is really long-winded, but he's really in-depth, and he's very dry, sarcastic, funny, and it's fun. So if you like really hearing things broken down, Little Platoon, like, you're listening to a podcast. So, I mean, you might really enjoy The Little Platoon. I also really like Nerdrotic. Nerdrotic is basically a pop culture commentator, but he's a comedian, man. He's really funny. And he's a little like me in that he has inside knowledge in that he used to own a store, and he's a fan. He buys the statues and the action figures. You'll see Nerdrotic in his room, and his room looks like my room, just decked out with all these collectibles. And when you're dealing with somebody who's a collector, you can't bullshit us and all this PR shit about how great Disney's been doing with all the brands that they've purchased. It's just, we call each other and laugh about it. We do. Like, I call my buddy Aaron and I go, did you read the article about they think we're fucking assholes. Like, because they do. They think you're an asshole. They think that, well, most people aren't going to know any better. So I say whatever the hell I want to say, and everybody believes it. Especially when they started going straight to sexism and racism and all these things to blame the audience when things weren't going well for them. But it's all terrible across the board. They're killing their brands. So let's see. Also, if you're a big comic book person who likes history of comics, Jerk Comics with Uncle Jerk. Shout out to Uncle Jerk. I love his channel. It is so awesome. It's a small channel, so help it grow. Jerk Comics. He just does like these long, many-part documentaries on various subjects of sort of comic book history. He did a really long thing on Sam Keith and Sam Keith's sort of love-hate with the Max, and there's been so many wonderful things that have come out of there. I just am in the middle of doing something on Gary Carlson, I think his name is, who created the character Vanguard, which showed up in Savage Dragon a bunch and was a book that came out from Image Comics and told his story. He's kind of the godfather of Image Comics. Anyway, I just started that one, but his channel is great, and he's got lots of really cool, juicy documentaries of just lots of interesting. It's a great one on Jack Kirby too. There's just so many. World Class Bullshitters is great. They're more people kind of like me, toy guys. They actually do a series of videos where they go to toy stores and go to some of these bargain places like Ollie's and show you what's there, so you can see stacks of characters that people did not enjoy. I'll let them point you in that direction if you go to World Class Bullshitters. They're great. They're a cool channel. Thinking Critical, my buddy Wes. Shout out to Wes. I've been on his channel a bunch talking about things here or there. Thinking Critical is a comic book review website, and it's all generally about comic book stuff, a little bit like a wider net than that, but he's a reader. He's also a former military man, and good dude. I really like Wes, and has good opinions, as does Perch. Comics by Perch is fun. He's just all talking about comic book stuff. He has like a wider net or a weirder sort of array of things that he talks about. It's a little bit like short form podcast kind of stuff. Perch is cool. Word Balloon's also great. John Suntress, love him. A good friend of mine for a long time. And John pretty much exclusively does a ton of interviews. And he's been in the industry for forever, and he knows everybody, and he's a lovely interviewer, a lovely man. Shout out to you, John. And he may end up over here at the podcast playground. So you may hear me say his name again. Bless me, by the way, in case you heard that burp, because it's my birthday, and I'm not going back and editing this. I'm not editing anything today. Not on my birthday. Not on my birthday. No editing. Also, my buddy MVP, Maxfield Von Priestley, he's got a great channel. He talks about comic books. And then a few more. Heels versus Babyface. He's hysterical. He's like more like film culture and pop culture commentator. But he's very funny. They just tried to cancel him recently. But it's really silly because he's just a silly guy, a silly guy with a silly YouTube channel, and and he does things to make people laugh, and he's over the top. He's passionate. He's a really sweet dude. I've watched him on enough things to know that he's not any sort of mean-spirited, negative anything. He's just he is who he is, and he's got his perspective, and we have to learn how to respect different people's perspectives, and just be open to conversation. I want better art, so I've never stopped being open to conversation, because I like us to continue to talk about how we can make these things better, because I think they can be. The last two I'll mention is Legal Mindset's a newer channel, but dude is he's like a Florida lawyer, so he's been covering a lot of the stuff down in Disney with the Disney park and the lawsuit in Reedy Creek and all that stuff. These are the types of people you want to follow, so you actually get relatively accurate information from the people that you do. But now that they have YouTube as a platform, they'll take a really long time in telling you and giving you information. So you're like, sum it up, man, sum it up. And finally, Clownfish TV. Clownfish TV, it's so funny. Clownfish TV is, I like Clownfish TV. I do. But I like some of these other channels so much more. But Clownfish TV, I just constantly find myself listening to their stuff because they're always covering things that I find interesting that I'm not seeing anybody else cover. So shout out to you, Clownfish TV, for covering the shit that I really would love to hear about that nobody else is doing. Anyway, so that's for you guys. That's your YouTube digest if you want to be up on some of the information that I'm up on, outside of, my professional, know-how and being a comics person or whatever. But here's the facts, Jack. According to this leaker, who's giving information, and I can't say who and I can't say whatever. But like I said, he told me, and there are plenty of people who have access to information about these things, and this makes perfect sense to me. According to this leaker, Star Wars merchandise is down 65% in total sales. And Disney is 40% loss. Disney has had a 40% loss of its retail shelf space, except for baby and preschool categories. This doesn't include that. And that Kenner, who formerly put out the Star Wars action figures, their single best year beats all of Disney's time with the brand in combination. And Disney's been with the brand for a while now, through many movies. And this is true. I feel it in my bones. I could have told you, 3 weeks ago, I was talking about how I can see these things. You can see the repudiation of the brands that they've purchased in the toy sales or lack thereof, in the fact that Buzz Lightyear is still there. He's still sitting on the shelves. They keep hoping kids are going to buy them, but kids don't seem super inspired to buy the Buzz Lightyear from that Lightyear film. That really did seem to sort of damage the brand. The Toy Story toys have always done very well. Buzz Lightyear toys did not. It's a big deal. And it goes down to this deep place of meaning for people. A lot of the people who are online, who are in social media spaces, and, forgive me if you're in social media spaces, I'm not trying to say that this is everybody, but a lot of the people, they're motivated more by being able to show up and sort of have a voice and whatever than actual credible places that they're coming from. There are people who love this stuff and dedicate their lives to knowing it inside and out and appreciating it and going to conventions to get autographs from their favorite artists and their favorite people and reading novels and giving new authors a chance and helping to spread the word about great stuff and watching new shows. And I mean, we need these people. These are the people who help us find the diamonds in the rough. And without them, we would never find the stuff, because most people, and I've been guilty of this at times in my life, we just go with whatever's around. Oh, well, I heard that on the radio. Well, do you know that there's actually great music being made that isn't on the radio? Tons. The music industry is built a very certain way. Most people that are on the radio, they just had to jump through all these specific hoops, but there are plenty of other people who couldn't or wouldn't jump through those hoops that are great. But ultimately, we would never find any of these things if we didn't have these people listening to these bands and reading these comics and reading these novels and then recommending them to us. So shout out to all of you people down there, the bottom feeders of fiction and art, the people who are willing to put themselves out there. Because, honestly, I'm not willing to put myself out there so much. Like, I hate reading crap. I mean, I know what to look for, so occasionally I can find things that nobody knows about or whatever that are really good. But generally speaking, you're not going to find me reading a novel that there's no other reason for me to be interested in it besides, oh, there's a new novel from some guy. Like, I can't do it. I can't do it. So I'm really glad that people are out there reading these books, and we need you guys. We need you guys so much. All these people. And actually, we need more of those people. We need more people who read to find all the good ones, because there's so much content these days. And I find that some of these things that have been coming out, they have to have been pretty good. Some of them have to be good and have just been completely missed by the audience. But, there's just so much content. How do we watch it all? And I'm not so sure it's possible for us to watch it all. So, the next part of the conversation about this merchandise drop, he did like a part 2 the next day, and he had a guest, Tommy Tables, who very sweetly kept referencing my previous interview. And at a certain point, he quoted me. He said, for anyone really paying attention, it's plain to see. And he was just, bubbling. He just kept saying, as Jesse said, and I really appreciate that, Tommy, because he... Well, it's funny. WDW Pro didn't know that I was a big toy guy. I think maybe he thought of me because we had talked about I had written Toy Story comic books. But as a huge toy guy, I knew exactly all this stuff. I had talked about this 3 weeks earlier on my show about how the merchandising stuff tells all. And I live like this double life because I'm a professional, actor to some degree. I don't go out for like films and TV and stuff like that, but I do hosting, and I'm a voiceover actor. So I'm in that world, and I also deal with a lot of actors at conventions when I've like hosted Hall A panels and all these different things, or judged costume contests. You've probably heard me talk about knowing Jason David Frank, before he passed away. I met Jason doing cosplay contests, judging a cosplay contest. We became friends. I'm very much in this world of superficial Hollywood stuff where they talk out of the sides of their mouth. And I've always been very against it and very genuine, pushing against that notion to bring light to this stuff. But it's been this crazy, angry mob on like Twitter and in all these places for the past bunch of years. So for a while, I just like ducked my head down and I didn't bother to have any conversations about anything at all, because everybody was just so like touchy about all the subject matter. Everything became like a political badge of honor to talk about, to be a fan of Star Wars, because you had to be against all the sexists who were not a fan of the new Star Wars that was being made. Well, that's not true. That wasn't what was going on. And I can tell you this much: when companies do that to their fan base, they leave. Like, people do not like that. I can tell you many times myself, I have gotten inflamed over something that, some opinion I held that I didn't tell anybody about or whatever, but I held the opinion. And then all of a sudden I found out for holding that opinion, I was therefore a racist or a sexist, like, because I didn't like a Rose Tico. I'm a racist or a sexist. No, she. Oh my God! I talked about it a lot on the Last Jedi 3-parter that we did. Rose Tico, she was aggravating in all sorts of interesting ways, and the biggest one was in all the ways that she emasculated Finn, which people like me, science fiction fans, when we saw Finn or John Boyega on the poster for The Force Awakens, we had also previously seen Attack the Block, Joe Cornish's great movie. If you haven't seen Attack the Block, that's your homework assignment for tonight. Go watch Attack the Block. Awesome movie. You won't regret it. And John Boyega is badass in that flick. And he wields a samurai sword. So he was like, obviously they had seen the movie. They were like, yes, put a lightsaber in his hand. Promise them this man is the lightsaber guy. And then they just made him a joke, and she was like this like thing hanging around his neck, just like aggravating him, and their whole mission was just sort of a waste of time. It was just I mean, granted, there were some really wonderful things that happened within that stuff, but still, what they did was nothing, accomplished nothing, just like derailed him. And he had a relation, like if you watch the first movie, The Force Awakens, he was interested in Daisy Ridley's character. All that gets thrown out the window, derailed by this other character who's just like this annoying kind of Rebels fangirl. I think that Rian Johnson was trolling everybody. I really do. In a lot of ways, I think he was trolling the fans. I do. I think that there's like I think I had 5 pieces of evidence that he was trolling the fans. I mean, this isn't not a good way to do business. To show your balls to the other the people watching your movies. There's a point in The Last Jedi where Luke Skywalker calls his lightsaber a laser sword. What, you think we were just gonna come in with our laser swords? And blah, blah, blah. I forget exactly what the line was, but it just demonstrated a contempt for these childish ideas. I've said it before. The people who make movies and TV because that's what they worship. They worship actors and models and the things that they can see and touch. People who read books and read comic books, we're a different ilk than the people who make the people who make them. We're a different ilk than the people who make films and TV. And the films and TV people think that we are like juvenile or boring forms of entertainment. Oh, it's a book. Ooh, it's like a lot to read. It's a book. I'm going to read the whole book. Or I'm going to read all of these comics. I'm going to catch up on all these things. It's easier for them to just cannibalize whatever was there and regurgitate little pieces that they heard people liked and do it in a new way, like they're doing with Thrawn now. It's there are always people in society who actually know what's going on. They're the people who are there. I'm there. And there are many other people like me who are there. We've been talking about how they're screwing all this stuff up for years now. Myself, not quite as long. I mean, I've done appearances here, there, whatever, but people like us have been saying this, and they were demonized for a long time for saying this stuff and called ists and phobes for the past decade of material as Marvel has flushed their brand down the drain. On the last episode of the World Class Bullshitters, they were showing Alleges and a couple of these discount stores, and it was recent Black Panther Wakanda figures and Ant-Man Quantumania and lines of Marvel Legends. Marvel Legends didn't used to be a brand that ever found itself at Ollie's. Very rarely certain characters, in a Spider-Man line, we sold all the Spider-Mans, whatever, but we couldn't get rid of this one or whatever like that. But like whole lines of this stuff, they are tanking the brand. It's really, it's a bummer. It's a bummer. I go into all these things with the often the lowest expectations, but with an expectation to really enjoy whatever it is. I want to enjoy this stuff. I love these things, and any high fantasy or sci-fi, I'm there. I want to enjoy it. Giant monsters, you got me. Now, because of my girlfriend and my son, I'll do horror too. And I love being a geek and getting into these things. I'm a big geek for comedy. I'm a big geek for the Muppets and practical effects. It's just fun to get deep into a thing that you like. I love Star Trek. I loved getting into Star Trek. I actually, now that I say it out loud to you, this is a little therapy for me because I've been out of my hobbies for so long. I like follow all information about all my hobbies and I do them professionally. All my hobbies, I work, even have tried to work in toys with the Four Horsemen to some degree here or there. We were trying to do a toy line with them called Bag of Ninjas for a little while, which was pretty funny. Bag of Ninjas, Bag of Ninjas. There ended up being some people, a company called the Foosh, a website called the Foosh that I like to go to. They did some ninjas, and they beat us to the punch. But I was having Four Horsemen Studios design some ninjas because I was like, ninjas are evergreen. Let's go do some ninjas. And the point is, I've been working in the business, but like I don't do my hobbies anymore. And guys, when you go into hard times financially or whatever, don't get rid of all your hobbies. If you have to cut down on some comic books, cut down on some comic books, but leave some there. Because I cut out all my comic books and I cut out just like everything that I was doing, all my habits that I had formed that were my hobbies. I cut them all out to try to catch up on work and do more things. And I tell you what, it really has been very bad for myself, and very hard for me to get back into my hobbies as things changed. Being able to regulate yourself and soothe yourself by having things that you like to do and that you're engaged in and keeping your eye on the prize in some way. I mean, like, that's what gives you a lust for life. That's what makes life worth living. And that's why I do this show and why I'm so interested in all these things still to this day, because it's made my life worth living. And yet here I am. I haven't been able to get back into my hobbies. So don't do it. Don't do what I did. Little warning to everybody out there. If you're thinking about giving up your hobbies, don't do it. Not completely. Cut down, but don't give it all up. I got a letter that I'm going to read in a little bit. So Star Wars merchandise down 65%. Loss of retail space. Now, that's a big one. The 40% loss of the retail shelf space. I think this is just so easy for you to see. I mean, anybody who's out there listening who is doubting this, go to Target and go to the toy section and check out the area allotted for Star Wars toys. If it's more than a sliver, I'll send you $5. Like, under very little circumstances. I mean, like, there's slivers. Maybe there's a little sliver and some scattered things here or there. I mean, it's just not there anymore. This idea that they've lost 40% of their shelf space. Yeah. Do you remember what it was like when these Marvel movies were on high? They've fallen off over the past 10 years now. It's really like the Disney Plus vacuum. Disney Plus has been a really interesting place for Disney in particular, because I think it's sucked off a lot of their momentum. People who weren't willing to get behind the paywall of Disney essentially bowed out of their brand, and they weren't getting eyes on anybody else. Because there's a certain amount of the population who's just like, I got Netflix, and that's it. I've got Netflix, and if it comes to Netflix, I'll watch it. And there's a certain amount of people who are like, I got Amazon Prime. If it comes to Amazon Prime, I'll watch it. Because there's so much freaking content. I mean, honestly, you can just watch stuff on Amazon Prime for forever. And Amazon Prime doesn't even offer a lot of content compared to other places. But sometimes, you buy one if you really need to. Granted, I follow a lot. I have a lot of different sources for my entertainment of these things, especially between families and stuff. But that's me, and I'm like a color commentator for this stuff. Other people, not everybody has gone behind the Disney paywall. If you're not a family man and you're not planning on rewatching the Disney animated classics anytime soon, and I mean, I still watch those things here or there, but I'm definitely a different animal than most people. It's just It's just plain to see. It's just plain to see if you just go to the toy sections and look, and then go to the bargain sections. Go to Ollie's in California. There's no Ollie's in New York. Sometimes TJ Maxx will get the discount stuff, and there are different places and different things that they end up doing with these toys. But I'm just telling you, if we go to a toy show, there's a place called Frankensons out in California. If I took you to Frankensons and you wanted a Rey action figure from the Star Wars franchise, we could find you any of the ones that have been released, and I could probably get them for you for like $5, $10, maybe less. Like they could throw them in with a sandwich or something like that. This is the situation. And this is why, and I'm not trying to mock. I'm not trying to mock Rey. I'm not. You guys probably know me by now. I'm not a sexist. I don't care. I love women. I didn't realize that we were so divided by like men and women until like I just kept showing up in the news all the time. Like I get along with women great. I get along with men great. I get along with everybody. In my world, it's bright. It's a small world after all. Things are positive. I'm a Disney guy. I love this stuff. But I'm also a professional, and I do this for a living, and I really want this stuff to be as great as it could be because I love it so much. So I hold a magnifying glass up to it, and I'm really hard on it. And this information that I'm giving you, I know this is like a speculation thing. This is just a rumor or whatever. But it's plain to see. Go look for yourself. Just go look for yourself. Go to any convention and go see how easy it is to come across a Rey figure. And, look at what it is that are so expensive and what isn't so expensive. Look at what's more available and what's less available. It takes a long time really to actually have a real idea about this. And people go to one show and they sometimes will get what they want to get. They see what they want to see. And, you won't necessarily get all the information that I have. And I promise you, I know more than you if you're looking in one place, because it's about over time and really seeing what's happening in the market. There's so much to pay attention to, and it's ebbing and flowing and happening all the time. But when you're somebody who is in it, you're living it, baby. So I knew that this was true, and I suspected this fact: Kenner's best year beats all Disney's time with the brand. That's crazy. That's crazy if that's true. That it just, whew, I mean, their best year, 1 year of selling toys beats all these years, and these Star Wars was an evergreen brand. I'm not a big Star Wars fan. I've gotten into Star Wars after the fact because so many of my good friends were into Star Wars. I wanted to be, at the table hanging out with them talking about Star Wars sometimes. So I got into it kind of with Rogue One, just as all of my friends were like, "Ugh, I hate it." I watched Star Wars and stuff, but I never really liked it so much. I liked Rogue One a lot. Rogue One sparked something in me. And I went back and I watched Clone Wars and I watched the animated stuff, and I really enjoyed a lot of that, even though I slept through some of the episodes that were about politics. It's just like, we're going to the assembly hall. And then I wake up. I'm like, how many episodes have I missed? What happened? I'm drooling. I'm drooling. How's that? Yeah. But Star Wars, man, like the hardcore fans, they've fallen off. My best friend Aaron Sparrow, he doesn't buy Star Wars toys anymore. And me and Aaron, we're customizers. I made a city. I've had a city since I was young that I've created. It burnt down a little while ago, but I'm gonna bring it back soon enough. Aaron's been building his own city now, but Aaron's a customizer. He does great paint application. He's got a little company called Big Head Studios. You can find them on Instagram with his buddies, and they make custom heads for people for these toys. when you're a customizer. But the point is, people like he and I, we're done. We're done with it. I finally gave up after Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan was the last one that, because I hated Boba Fett. And then the third season of Mandalorian. I will be watching Andor, the second season. I really liked the first season of Andor. Again, that's connected to Rogue One. That was the one thing that I really liked in all of this. But I'm done. I'm not watching Ahsoka. I'm not watching. Yeah, they were making fun of me the other day on my show, Toys, Toys, Toys. We live stream. It's the Coolest Geeks, a live stream every Thursday. It's 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. But we get on, me and my buddies, and we talk about toys. And, we're majorly into this stuff. For Aaron, this is like how he got into toys in the first place. And he doesn't do Star Wars anymore. He's all done. He doesn't consider himself a fan anymore. He's just done with it. And it's not like this mean-spirited, it's just sad. He's sad about it. I talk to him sometimes. I'll ask him something. What do you think about this with Star Wars? And I've finally stopped asking him about Star Wars stuff because, like, the dozenth time that he goes, I don't care about Star Wars anymore. Star Wars is dead to me. I'm not paying attention. I didn't hear about that. I don't care. And this is what they've done to the fandom. This is why they're not selling anything. I understand that they've been courting another market, but they lost the previous market and they haven't actually captured the new market. And granted, yeah, kids are into video games and all these reasons why things might be down. I saw people posting in the comments on WDW Pro's video that I was on about, it's a different day and age, we don't sell guys. There are people with deep pockets who are willing to do these things, and I maintain that when you satisfy the base, the rest of the stuff comes too. And they have not been satisfying the base, and they haven't gotten anything else. I believe that if they had satisfied the base, the rest of the stuff would have came too. When there's enthusiasm in the marketplace, it's contagious. Enthusiasm from the adults leads to enthusiasm from the kids. Enthusiasm. There has not been enthusiasm. There's been a lot of false enthusiasm, a lot of, PR, press release kind of stuff, like, look how great we're doing, patting ourselves on the back. It's not been going well. The Force Awakens was just a remake of A New Hope, with bigger and deadlier and whatever. I went at length at these guys in my Last Jedi episodes. The Last Jedi was a conflicting piece that kind of rewrote and broke the trilogy because it completely rejected lots of the things established in Force Awakens and did a few interesting things, but those things weren't picked up on in the third film, which walked back on everything that happened in the second film, and the movie was like being shook by someone, right? It was just like somebody came up to you, grabbed you by the shoulders, and went, Star Wars! Like is it over? Okay. Whee! Star Wars. Yeah. And that's how the fans felt. Shrug. These are not the things that inspire you to go out and buy some toys. The promise of action figures and toys and cars and whatnot is what you can imagine them doing. And that's why the framing device is always so important. It's why the comic books always get brought back to center so that people can go back to imagining Batman out there fighting crime against all these different lunatics out there in the asylum. The Joker has to be on the table. He doesn't die because it's better to torture him in some way. It's better to leave him alive so that he can come back and haunt Batman again. It's always better to continue the thing, to leave a light on. These things that they've been doing of late, they are conflicting with past established canon, the things that people look to imagine in their mind what else is out there and what else is possible. When you start having a devil-may-care attitude towards the canon and doing whatever you would like to do and adjusting the canon in this way or that way or whatever, the audience starts to feel as though, one, the things that they thought mattered don't really matter. And the ideas that the audience had in its head about what was possible and what could be, they start to die away. So all that sort of fan fiction, and I'm not talking about the people who go out of their way to actually write down fan fiction. Shout out to all you guys. But I'm talking about just sort of fan fiction that's in people's heads. The basic premise of the thing leads to, and the basic premise of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe and Skeletor and me having these toys in my hands leads to me having a certain couple ideas about what a movie or a TV show featuring the Masters of the Universe might be about. If you don't satisfy what are the universal aspects of what people like me are feeling when they're playing with these toys, you're not going to connect with that part of them that is building a world and making it bigger. You know, that Dolph Lundgren He-Man movie they made, it really it made it all stupid to some degree. Like, because we hated that thing so much, it downplayed the whole fandom to some degree because we had to own that movie's existence, and it was like, this is embarrassing. In our minds, there was a really wait till you see this Masters of the Universe movie. It's gonna be amazing. And then we got this other thing, and we were like, ugh, God, sorry. I didn't want to have to apologize for liking Masters of the Universe, which is what we ended up doing in the 80s after that movie came out. And you don't want to be Masters of the Universe. I mean, they still have not released another film. Now it's like a few decades later because of how stinky that one was. And basically, people have to forget the parts of the thing that we didn't like. And then they bring it back with a new coat of paint on it, and maybe we'll like it. I really think they could tomorrow make a really brilliant Masters of the Universe film, and people would lose their freaking minds. I could make one. I could help them make one. If you're out there and you need somebody to help you do this, I can help you do this. Masters of the Universe is just one example of screwing up the lore and the thing that people were enjoying and not honoring it and stifling it and adding another thing alongside the thing that you like that you don't really like, which just dilutes the whole bit. And right now, they are just doing a serious dilution of the love that everybody used to have for Marvel, Star Wars, Pixar, Disney animation through all these remakes, and they're not alone. Warner Brothers, they're just the DC rollout across the board, even the switch over to James Gunn's plan for all of these DC characters. It's crazy. It really is an entertainment apocalypse right now, and the merchandise tells all. Well, I think I'm going to move on. I think I've covered this as much as I can today, but I've got a fan letter. It's a sweet one. Like I said, I've seems a little self-serving to read some of these letters because I was kind of hoping that I was going to get people writing to be like, hey, you said this and I disagree, and so I could talk about some things at better length. But in general, it's just been very nice things that have been really kind to me, and I really appreciate that. But it just seems like I don't have to read that letter about the guys being nice to me. But since it is my birthday, I broke out the nicest one that had come in. This was, I think meant to be anonymous, so I'm not going to share their email here. But came in, says, hey, Jesse, fellow comics pro here. Friend of a friend, actually. Ooh. I just wanted to say I'm becoming a big fan of you and your podcast and your work overall. I've been involved in comics for any number of years as well and can relate to the joy and sheer ridiculousness of what one has to go through when they love a thing. The grind and the disappointment can really take it out of you, and to hear that your love of comics has been resolute and infectious makes me proud and wish that I'd been as steadfast over the years. I'm still in the business, but a bit more on the peripheral than I would like, and certainly not intended. But listening to you talk about your love of the game and welling up over the shared camaraderie of comics and that we should be coming together, it pushes my own buttons and makes me want to create and hunker down. Because I teared up too. It means a lot to consistently hear from a pro like yourself how much this nerdy thing we love means to you, and that even when it's not easy, you're still in there grinding it out. So good on you, and good for all of us. So I'll keep trying to grind it out too. Thanks, Jesse. Keep doing what you're doing. Sorry, I'm holding back tears. It's making me cry. See, I mean, like, this is the thing. Like, you guys are too sweet, because I'm like, oh, great, I've cried on my show now. I mean, I'm easy. I'm sentimental, so I'm easy to make cry. But when I did it the first time, I'm like, now I'm going to get letters from people like, don't cry on your show, you big baby. And instead, it's things like that where people are like, I teared up too, and I appreciate that you care so much. And I do. I care so much. The stuff's good. These comic books, and there's these great novels, and like there's stuff. I'm like less deep into, say, fantasy novels than my buddy Pat. Shout out Pat. Pat used to read all sorts of fantasy novels, like dragon kind of stuff and magic stuff, things that were kind of adjacent to Dungeons and Dragons, but their own thing. And he had nothing but great things to say about a couple different bits that I hoped, I'm like, oh, maybe one day they'll make that into a movie, because that sounds great, but I'm not necessarily going to commit to like this 9-part series of dragon novels. I think part of the reason why I do comics is because it's so easy to kind of just break it into your life 15 minutes at a time, to read your average comic book 15 minutes and I got a comic book done and on to something else, versus like sitting there with the novel. Because sometimes I forget with the novels if I'm not like really on it. Like when I have a novel, I'll read it when I know I have airplane flights are coming up. I'll like save it for my flights there and home and get a real big chunk into my book and then finish it at some point. I don't know. You're probably like me. You got to plan the things out so you get the things read, especially when you start to have a pile of books that you got to get through. And you're like, okay, the only way I'm going to tackle this is if, okay, I'll put that in my book bag for work when I go over there to the office. And I want to put that over there by that table because sometimes I sit there, and then all of a sudden you're like 3 books in. But a lot of times with the novels, I just lose track of where I'm at in the thing. And then I end up having to reread the novel over and over and over again. Used to actually happen to me with comic books too, with comic books like 100 Bullets, where all the characters were in suits. I would forget who all the characters were because they weren't flashy and different. So I had to start reading in story arcs. I would collect like 6 issues at a time for everything so that I wouldn't forget what was going on in the books. Because I was reading so many things, it was hard to absorb all the information and keep it all in my head. Anyway, it's so nice having this conversation with you guys. I dig being a podcaster. I had not necessarily seen this as a path for myself, and I'm so glad that the Podcast Playground reached out to me, because I've been hosting and doing voiceovers and doing all these different things for years and years and years, and I have so much to say, and I've had various versions of things like this, like the show Geek Nation that I talked about. I was going to do it with my buddy Dane Hall before he passed away, which was good. This like geek culture, entertainment tonight kind of thing. And, but never got off the ground. And podcasting, because I don't generally listen to podcasts myself. A lot of them I do on YouTube, actually, a lot of podcasts. I never really thought about podcasting. And this has just been so wonderful to be able to communicate with an audience and get a letter like that and have such sweetness said to me. My father was very complimentary right from the jump with this show. My dad's a really big fan of Gene Shepard and other radio personalities like Howard Stern, where he used to be a guest, and he loves people talking on the radio. And to hear him listen to my podcast and freak out that I was really a good podcaster and that I should keep doing this and that I had a lot of great things to say, and he was listening to my show going, yes, 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 exactly, that's right. Glad that I was speaking about these things. it's just been very motivating. And, it was cool. I feel embarrassed to share our numbers, but I'm so excited. Like, I had gotten our last month's thing, and basically, even though our numbers for our downloads last month went down like a good chunk, like we had 400,000 downloads last month. It's a couple months back. It takes a little while for you to get your numbers. So it's like, I don't know, 2 months ago or some, whatever amount of time it is. Forgive me. I'm not trying to lie. I'm ignorant to what it actually is. But my numbers went from 460,000 downloads to 400,000 downloads. But the 400,000 downloads, I still went up in ad revenue the same amount that I've been going up in ad revenue as I've been increasing by like 60 to 80,000 every month. So I've been increasing like 60 to 80,000 every month since I started. And it went down 60 to 80,000 and I still went up the same amount of revenue. That means that you guys have been listening longer. It's 53 minutes into my show. You're still listening. And that's just like, thank you. Thank you guys so much for being here with me and for having this conversation. I love this stuff. Like, I have all this useless information in my head, and I love to be able to talk to you. And I really love to be able to talk to you through like the podcast thing, because I just feel like it's like I have really big energy, and on a radio thing, I just feel like it turns me down just to the maybe perfect volume where you can just take in the heart and soul of the things that I'm saying to you. And so far, it seems like that's been the case. So thank you all, everybody who's been listening. My audience is filled with the coolest geeks alive. And, from the very bottom of my heart, Nana and Poo Poo, Stick Your Head in Doo Doo, I was right, told you so, toys, merchandise, tells all, Star Wars, Disney, their shit's in the in the shitter. I know it's just a rumor, but I'm telling you, I don't discount the fans and what we're saying. Don't be so quick to believe the corporations. They've got this game going, this PR game, making themselves look good. Disney is very good at making sure that they never have any dirt on their face. That's like the whole thing. It's been like this for a while. A lot of these companies are like this. I mean, most of them. It just is what it is. It is what it is. It's a sad state of affairs, my friends. But anyway, I love you guys. You could write me a letter like our anonymous comic book pro did at jesseblaze@jessesnyder.com or jesseblaze@jessesnyder.com. You could hit me up on Twitter. I'm coolestgeek at JBS. And thank you again for helping us raise money for King of Kings on Kickstarter. I'm really excited to launch our next project, Fucking for Our Future #1, which is going to be launching probably like in a month or something like that. I have to fulfill our King of Kings thing first, but Fucking for Our Future is awesome. I'm really excited to do that with my buddy Dizzy Arnold. Just awesome, awesome, awesome. Anyway, I'll be sharing all this stuff with you. And this past weekend, I made a thing for you guys to get into Batman. It's like just like the best Batman stuff to start with. I'm doing a follow-up video to that this weekend for people who want to get even deeper into Batman, but really start with that first one. That first one's got all the stuff, and it should take you years to do that. But you should listen to the second one. It'll just give you an idea about some of the other stuff. Anyway, I love you so much, and join me again this and every Saturday morning, or join me again this and every Saturday. Join me again Wednesday and every Saturday morning for another awesome installment of The Coolest Geek Alive.
It's my favorite part. Isn't that heavy? I played that. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Coolest alive. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Stay with your tribe. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Revenge of the Geeks. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Week after weeks. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Laughing with you. It's gonna be fucking awesome. And crying sometimes too. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Spelling it out. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Making you shout.
You've been listening to Coolest Geek Alive with me, your host, Jesse Blaze Snyder. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe for more excellent geek culture content. Thanks for listening.
You like that? It's a kazoo solo. I played that too. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Talking some shit. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Living legit. My voice is fucking awesome. Food in our mouth. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Get in the mouth. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Tell all your friends. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Call right on text. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Raising the bar. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Straight to the stars. It's gonna be fucking awesome. It's starting soon. Straight to the top. Awesome. Passing the moon. It's gonna be fucking awesome. On with the show. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Ready, set, go. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Fucking awesome. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Just wait. You'll see. You'll all see.
The Podcast Playground.